Yeah, fairly happy that to date we've been able to raise the money that we've done. Subscriptions on the book right now is almost 5.3 million bucks. On the John DeMayo side and Graphex side, they have tested our graphite, completed testing on our graphite. That final confirmation of the results of that will hit the market fairly shortly. Well, the good news is, pretty much almost everything is into the processing plant that needs to be into it.
Welcome to the YouTube channel, Arno. It is a true pleasure to have you on here for the second time.
Oh, thank you very much, Stein. I appreciate you making the time to interview me today, and it's great to be back.
Great. Now, to start off the conversation, Arno, I'm asking you a pretty blunt question. Why should anyone invest in Gratomic today?
So, Stein, in a short version, Gratomic as a company today, has come much further than any other graphite company in North America in terms of getting to that magic point where you're transitioning from a junior mining company into a commercial mining enterprise. The Aukam project in Namibia today is, we've went into a long period of stagnation as we were waiting for equipment coming into the mine. We've received a lot of that equipment to date, and we see that equipment going into the circuit. There's no other graphite company in North America that you can invest in today that has a shorter timeline to production than Gratomic. And as far as Gratomic is concerned, it was also in a category where it's one of the companies with the highest head grade of graphite in the world. Our processing plant is built to be fed with about a 35% graphite content. And, from that perspective, nobody can compete with that. We've got our first material stockpiled in front of the processing plant. As soon as the last pieces of equipment goes in, it's basically plug and play.
Great, thank you for your answer. Now I'm going to ask you a couple of questions I've actually gathered from the community. So, for example, the CEO.ca community and some subreddits. Now, the first question I have for you is regarding the work that has been done at Aukam over time. And the question is, what work was completed in Aukam between the product and bag milestone and today?
So, the product and bag milestone, was basically developed. We developed that program to transition the company into a phase where we were going to do end user product development, meaning we had to generate product on a large scale and send that out to multiple end users around the world so that they can actually test that product into their applications and verify that that product is actually capable of functioning within, the end applications. Now, as the year progressed, we started getting confirmation of that. We were in a holding pattern on the mine itself for quite some time. Particularly because we were waiting for equipment. The supply chain issues around the world that plagues pretty much everybody in every industry in the world, fairly much hit Gratomic the same way as it hit everybody else. We had pieces of equipment that were almost 116 weeks delayed in terms of getting it on the mine site. So, we were sitting in a holding pattern, really waiting for equipment to get to the mine site. Aside from that, we launched a benching program. We used that time to our advantage to really start putting the stockpile or building up the stockpile on the ROM pad, getting roads up onto the side of the hill where the Aukam graphite project daylights. We started cutting benches into the face of the graphite ore body. And, at the point where equipment started arriving back onto the mine site, we started installing our pumps. We started getting our thickeners properly aligned and, getting them functional. As much as recently, we're starting to, set up the new cyclone system that's going up. We're fixing our tail end of the circuit, meaning really going into tail management, water filtration. At this point in time, we're about 6 weeks away from receiving our stir media mill, probably about a month away from receiving our polishing mill. We've got 36 more pumps that are arriving systematically. We use the proceeds of the financing to really get those last couple of non-essential items to finish off this circuit. The bagging station's done. we're working and fine tuning the filter press, conditioning tanks, reconditioned all the columns, got the spargers into the columns, realigning the bases of the columns. We're going to start setting up the 12 columns on site. We've got 3 more flotation cells coming in. Quite a lot of work is transpiring right now, and you know what? It's going to be a hard push to get all those pieces of equipment in. But as we continue working hard on the mine site, we'll get to that point and eventually get to the point where we can start feeding that material from the ROM pad into the processing line.
Great. Thank you, Arno, for your answer. And it's great to hear about the progress that's actually happening at Aukam. And you actually also answered my follow-up question regarding the reasoning for these delays. So really thank you for that. Now, the next community question I've gathered is regarding the representative samples that has been sent to SGS in June 2022. Now, the question is, we haven't seen any real details regarding these samples sent to SGS. Is there a specific reason not to share these results with the public?
So product development is fairly a sensitive subject. It's not something that you're going to frequently share with the market to respect the end user's confidence. We've sent loads of samples around the world through SGS, which did product verification for us from the mine material that came out of process material that came out of Aukam. So the first stop would be send it to SGS, verify that the product is actually independently verified that the product is what it's supposed to be, and then take that product and send it off to your end user base. The end user base then systematically puts that product through their application process, make sure that it's what they need in terms of quality, crystallinity, energy density. You don't want to, and you want to keep that to a higher degree of confidence because you want to respect the end user's confidence. People don't like it when you start dropping names in the market, just to get momentum in the share price. At the point where that product has successfully been integrated into the final process and application, then we will announce that into the market, and that's fairly short on the horizon. It's not something that is still going to take weeks. It's something that's really around the corner, and we'll come and bring that results to the market so that people can see. Okay, well now this is basically confirming what we initially thought was very, very suitable for these applications as a vein graphite material going into it. This is the final commercial confirmation that the graphite and Aukam is suitable for these end applications, which for us is mostly battery anode material. This is the first time in the world that somebody is actually going to take vein graphite and put it into an anode. It's never really happened because nobody's really built a vein graphite plant or mine of this scale in the world. It's been an incredibly challenging process to try and integrate that into a conventional understanding of how flake graphite performs in the anode versus vein graphite. And you really gotta have all your facts straight before an end user is going to come and say, oh well, you know what, I'm going to take this because it's going to differentiate me as an end user. I'm going to have the edge on everybody else, meaning we have a crazy lineup of people that are really running to us trying to get access to this material. But you really have to, go through all the testing. You can't just take a shortcut and say, okay, well, we're going to integrate it. We're going to partner with these guys, and it goes through the full testing, and it doesn't really function as it should. But people are going to have to wait and see the results from that product development phase that we launched very many years ago.
Excellent, for sure. Really exciting to hear about those potential short-term catalysts in the form of testing results showing up. So thank you for your color on that. Now, the next community question I have is actually regarding cash, regarding the capitalization of Gratomic. So the question mainly is, what does the cash position currently look like, and how high is the need of capitalization for both Aukam and Capim Grosso on the short to medium term?
I can tell you in the last year, we brought in roughly about $12 million into the company. the burn rate in Brazil at this moment in time, fixed burn rate is about 25 grand a month. With the exploration programs going right now, it's about 15 grand a month. On Aukam, we're fully staffed and baked in burn rate at about $150,000 a month. And in Canada, we've really reduced the burn rate in Canada in the last 12 months. We're probably now at a point where we're about a third of the run rate that we used to be in terms of capital burn per month. The CEO doesn't really get a salary. I don't think I've taken a compensation out of Aukam for almost 2.5 years. But at the end of the day, I would say our fixed burn rate is, now come to the point where the subsidiaries are operating under $200,000 a month, which is not bad for, a fully baked in operation in a jurisdiction like Namibia. We've got, 45 full-time employees. We did shave that down quite significantly. As you do in any corporation, you kind of optimize your workforce over time. We've completely mechanized the entire processing circuit. I think on a bad day, it can be run with 3 people. That really optimizes things. Everything's run from a single control panel. From here on out, cash balance, we brought in $3 million on the financing to date. It's been really tough. We decided, again, it's almost a replication of history. We're just the worst possible moment in time to raise money. But we really raise money when we need to raise money. We don't go into the market in periods where, it's not necessary to capitalize the business. So, we launched our financing, slam dunk recession, and I'm fairly happy that to date we've been able to raise the money that we've done. Subscriptions on the book right now is almost $5.3 million. Getting money out of shareholders in this type of environment is incredibly difficult. You have to call them like 6 times a week and say, when's your check going to be? When's your check coming in? When's your check coming in? And everybody's suffering. I mean, a lot of my friends in the business, they're all hurting. And you really don't want to be pushing people when they're at the brink of, really, really having a hard time personally. So you give them enough time to bring in the checks. Don't put pressure on them, because that's just not the right way to do business. We had to make the financing available to the public equally for a change, because we haven't done that for a year and a few months. Every time, we could have easily gone to the market and, done a few deals here and there, but it's now been open long enough time to the public to participate to move towards a close on this fairly soon. And there you have it.
Great, thank you for your color on that quite sensitive topic, especially for an exploration company. Now, the next question I have is actually regarding a press release the company put out pretty recently for Graphex, a letter of intent to create a joint venture together. Perhaps you can explain this deal in a bit more detail, and especially explain the importance of this potential joint venture for Gratomic's path to becoming a graphite producer.
You have to understand the graphite business is made up of, several different stages of processing and refining and coating, actually to qualify it into the anode. So as far as the Graphex relationship goes, Graphex is a company that has 10 years of experience in mid-tier processing of graphite concentrates around the world. Primarily, most of their graphite right now is coming from China. John DeMayo, the CEO of Graphex, has taken a fairly aggressive stance that he wants to diversify his mid-tier processing activities into the US. Now, that is good news for us in the current status of relations between America and China. As a graphite miner, we might know how to mine the graphite, we might know how to process the graphite, and we have quite a lot of experience in that. But as a mid-tier processor, Gratomic doesn't really have that 10-year, 10,000 hour, type of professional degree associated with it. And, we're just not going to be successful if we try to do that on our own. So why don't you take a perfect, take a perfect participant in that market like Graphex? You guarantee them something that they don't have, which is the differentiation to create a thin graphite anode material to give, their 250 end users around the world a benefit that nobody else can. And, John DeMeo actually loved this idea from day one. And, it made perfect sense for us as Gratomic because we could take our, pristine mining experience and partner that with the pristine mid-tier processing experience that comes with Graphex. And, in a marriage between those two, you can actually create something beautiful. And we realize quite a bit more money under the joint venture in realized sales than we would otherwise as a concentrate, sale. So, it made a lot of sense just to bring the two together under a joint venture. We're busy tabling that joint venture. On the John DeMeo side and Graphex side, they have tested our graphite. They completed testing on our graphite. That final confirmation of the results of that will hit the market fairly shortly. And, then the audience can, judge for themselves where they want to see that, relationship or how they want to see that relationship unfold. But I think it's going to be one that is going to differentiate both parties and optimize the two vehicles to be, quite a competitor in the space.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your in-depth explanation on this specific topic. Now, the next question I have is regarding the timeline the company has previously put out for Aukam to go into production, which was the first half of 2023. Do you think this timeline is still realistic, or should we adapt this timeline slightly?
Well, the good news is, pretty much almost everything is into the processing plant that needs to be into it. This is, if people had asked me today whether I would ever endeavor to build a mine anywhere in the world during a pandemic ever again, I would definitely tell them hell no. Wait for supply chain to kind of reestablish itself and then, hit the market and go from there. Now, in terms of understanding where Gratomic is today, you kind of have to look at the greater picture, and you can go look at, mines being built in Chile, South America as a whole, Africa as a whole, by major companies that are worth $300 billion or $100 billion or $50 billion or $60 billion. These guys are 5 years out on their timelines. They're, billions of dollars over budget. If the majors can't do it, Gratomic as a company is going to suffer that same problem. The only advantage that we have is we have a very low capex. So, now that most of the equipment has arrived to the mine site, things are starting to move really quickly in terms of preparing that site to start processing the first material. Of course, the holy grail for Gratomic is its refining circuit, which is its stir media mill and its polishing mill. Now, what the stir media mill and the polishing mill does is it takes that material that has gone through your processing plant and it upgrades it from 91 to 93 and then 97.2% average, which is pretty good. I mean, most graphite mines in the world only dream of results like that, and it does so at an average of 85 to 92% recovery. Once those two pieces of equipment, which is, expected 4 to 6 weeks between the two of them. So on the mine side, final integration of the last little pieces of instrumentation goes into it. Of course, we still need a little bit of more money to go into the company to execute that, but then we're good to go. And you know what? If it's not within the first half of this year, it will definitely be within the first couple of weeks of the third quarter. But we're fairly well on time right now.
Excellent. I'm for sure really excited for those catalysts for the company reasonably soon. Now, Arno, I really want to thank you for your time, your knowledge, and your expertise today. And really thank you for coming on the channel again.
No problem. Thank you, Stein. It's a pleasure being here always.